say, tell me where you really from. I ain't talking New York, I don't mean West Coast. I mean, look at your skin, so where you really from? I don't mean
What's good, everybody? Welcome and thank you for tuning in to Great Wall of America, Untold Stories, a limited podcast series where we as immigrants share our stories of how we overcome the barriers facing us in this country. Today's guest is Jeff Kwan, the owner of Canal Sound and Light of Chinatown, Manhattan. A born and bred New Yorker, Jeff not only has taken over his family business, helped it thrive, but also grown it to become an essential part of the community. I've had the chance to work with Canal Sound and Light for my own events, and it's truly a pleasure. Here is Jeff Kwan. What's going on, Jeff? How are you, man?
Good. Good to be here. Good to be here with you.
Thanks, man. Thanks for coming. We'll get right into it. I have to ask, where are you from? But also, where are you really from?
From New York City. Born and raised. Born in 1977 over here, so older
Nice.
than most people think.
Look good.
Yeah. It's the baby fat. I still carry. No, but my mom is Chinese from Toisan.
Yeah.
And then my dad is Chinese from Guangzhou. But actually so we're Chinese, to answer the question.
Yeah. So from New York, born 77. Where were you born?
So I was born here.
Right, but what part of New York?
In Brooklyn, Bay Ridge.
Bay Ridge. Wow, I live in Sunset Park.
Oh, yeah.
I'm on 60th and 5th, so I'm right there.
Yeah. So Lutheran Medical, I think, is near the all the way at the end.
Okay.
In the 60s, like by the Hudson right there.
Okay.
I think where I don't know what's there right now, but it's an industrial area.
Yeah, that's all good. We're just chatting.
But my family, my grandfather came here in the early 40s. 1941.
And from Tyson as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was the story of y'all getting here.
Of my
Grandpa.
family, yeah.
Okay.
My grandfather was the
Okay.
first.
What was that? I mean, you said in the 40s, so that must have been right around
Right before the war.
And also like the Cultural Revolution. People.
Not yet.
But after that, pretty soon people were leaving for Taiwan as well.
Yeah.
Right. So what was his story?
My grandfather, I think he came through. I'm not sure if he came here directly or came through Cuba, but he was about 18 or 19 when he came, and then he enlisted with the army, and he fought in World War II.
Whoa.
For 2 years.
On the American side, of course.
On the American side, yeah.
Wow.
From 1943 to 1945.
Right.
And he's honorably discharged. He has a lot of medals and ribbons and stuff. I found the records of him. I have like pictures of when he was in the army and stuff.
Yeah.
So I can show you those.
Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, I would love to see some of that later. Maybe like if you don't mind, we can put it up on the video so people can see too.
And he's got a picture of me as a baby too, when I was born. So yeah, he fought in Germany. Like he had to go to Germany.
Right.
And so he had to deal with a lot of racism in the army.
Right.
They always when you're walking in the snow, you're gonna you might like walk on a mine and blow yourself up. So everybody used to always walk on everybody else's footprints.
Right.
So that, I know that this guy's already been here. Right?
Yeah.
So they always put the Chinamen in front.
Whoa, that's crazy.
So,
they're like the detectors.
yeah.
Wow.
So he was like, I think the
That's
story
insane.
goes like he was like doing well for like 8 or 9 days.
Right.
And he asked his commanding officer for a break. So he got like a day off. But then the next guy up blew himself up.
Oh my God.
And then so
That is so crazy.
Yeah.
Whoa.
And then so, no, you got to go back up now. You were a good luck.
Yeah.
So.
Jeez. Well, apparently he was good luck because he made it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he made
That's
it
what's
through.
up. What's up, everybody? Thank y'all for tuning into the Great Wall of America podcast. I just want to take a quick second now to give a shout out to Lunar Hard Seltzer, the sponsor for this series. Some of the best people, some of the best drinks, and they're always showing out for the community. So make sure you show them some love at Lunar Hard Seltzer. Back to the podcast.
He made it through, and he came back, and he didn't talk about the war at all. And then he came back, and he was just a waiter and a taxi driver, and just built his family. He had
a waiter
3
at what kind
daughters
of?
and 2 sons. Just
A Chinese
just at a
spot?
Chinese American restaurant
Yeah.
with I remember he used to always bring home like duck sauce and like like egg rolls.
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah.
he was American,
Wow.
but he was also American. He always drank like nai cha, and
Yeah.
S cookies from Stella D'Oro. Like these are the things I remember about him. So
Right. And how did he meet your grandmother?
I think he was allowed to go and find a wife in China, and so he's like a hero, So,
Right. Right.
So he
So he went back
brought
to
her here.
Toisan.
Yeah,
Got it. Yeah, yeah. Wow. And so I saw that the Instagram. Well, so we met. So for listeners that don't know, me and Jeff met because I think it was for like a Bobble House event, right? It was for like an event, and I needed some sounds. And I had already been following your page, but I looked again today, and it said, like since 1977. So that's the year that you were born.
Yeah,
Got
essentially,
it.
yeah.
Got it. So how about Canal Sound and Light? How long has this store been around?
Since I was born.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
So it's been a family operation.
Yeah.
So this is where your dad was doing?
So fast forward to the Cultural Revolution. I think my dad was a teenager back in those days in China, and my grandfather, his dad, owned a lot of businesses, a firehouse. He was like a major business liaison for a lot of people, and so in those times they took all my grandparents' properties and they tortured them and stuff. And
my grandpa was a landlord too.
Yeah.
Exactly. So kind of went through. I don't know exactly. He never talked about it, but I heard it from my mom and stuff. Yeah. Wait. So I'm sorry to cut you off, but so your grandpa came to the States, was in the war.
But on my dad's side, that was on my mom's side.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
So on my mom's side, my mom was also born in America because of my grandfather.
Right.
But on my dad's side, he after he left the farms and he escaped the farms and he with his friends and he swam from there. He swam from China to Hong Kong.
He swam
for his freedom. Yeah, it was about like
Whoa.
I think he said like 6 hours.
Wow. I can't even tread
And
water. I'd be done.
He got shot at by the Red Army on the beach.
Right.
And they had life preservers, and so they were like swimming, and then like one of his friends like got his chewed out by the Red Army dog.
Oh shit!
That they were like chasing after them and stuff.
Right.
And then, so he was swimming a lot, but he started getting cramps. So my dad gave him his, and then my dad made a swim for it, and then they just like ended up on the beach, and
that's a
got tossed in
crazy
jail.
Story.
Basically.
That's a crazy story to swim from Toisan to Hong Kong, basically.
Just imagine swimming across like the Hudson River.
Yeah.
That's not even
I can't,
as much.
Like I said, I can't even tread water. So if I need to take a break at any point, it'd be over,
That's like a bay, right?
Yeah. So he made it to Hong Kong, and then did he stay in Hong Kong?
Yeah, he started learning like machinery, electronics. He started apprenticing because nobody was really giving him a job because he said that he would apply for a job. He wouldn't really have much education coming from China.
Right.
And then the guy was like, don't even fill it out,
Yeah. There's nothing to fill out.
I know. Yeah. It's tough back in the day.
Right.
But he just started apprenticing for these. He said that his boss was like 66, like in their 60s. So he got to learn a lot from them. And then eventually one of my aunt's friends who was in the States sponsored him to come to the States when he was like, I think it was like 1973 or 4 or something like that.
Yeah.
And that's when he met my mom because my mom's uncle had a electronics store selling like TVs and refrigerators
In New York?
Yeah, in New York,
Uh-huh,
in the Lower East Side on Market Street. And then they met, and then my dad would do the installations. They would go and install like an air conditioner or like a refrigerator or something. My mom would be the translator, and then my dad would be doing the install work. So they formed a little bond like that.
Got it. So your mom was here before your dad.
Yeah.
Her family was already here, so
Yeah.
she already spoke some English. And
She was college educated,
Wow.
master's degree, and the teacher, mathematics teacher.
Wow.
Yeah.
And when did her family get here?
No, so meaning my grandfather fought in the war.
Right.
And
Oh,
then
right. That's right. That's
my,
that's the mother's side. Right.
yeah.
Right. Got it. Right.
And then she grew up in New York during the craziness.
Wow. So I assume you were probably around the shop when you were a kid.
Yeah. I was basically in the
store
office. Yeah.
Was
like
it
as a baby?
At the same location?
Yeah, same location.
Same exact place.
Yeah, same location.
That is so wild. Wow. And what was that like being a kid and your family has
Small business.
small business, but it's also such a pretty different business, like sound and lighting,
No, that's a great question. It's tough. Like you had to kind of, there were different phases. In electronics, everything always changes, so you have to always adapt. Like there were years when my dad would pick up broken TVs from he said that a few times he did it. They threw away a lot of TVs out of Macy's, like behind Macy's. He picked them all up and then fixed them up and sold them and stuff.
Wow.
It's just hi-fi stereo equipment. There were other stores, and then in the time of Crazy Eddie's and these different electronic stores, there were a lot of competition, and almost every store was not Asian owned.
Right.
Right. They're all different. And on Canal Street, there used to be 12 stores, and then they all were just really gunning for us, all the time.
12 sound and lighting sound stores.
Yeah,
okay.
Exactly.
How many are there now?
Just one.
Oh, it's just y'all?
Just me, yeah.
Wait, I thought there was another Canal Light and Sound.
No.
That's the same.
Oh, so on the corners of Canal lighting.
Lighting.
They're more for home lighting.
Got you. Because I remember when I went to look for you, I got confused and I went in there. And I was like, I'm looking for Jeff. They're like, it's next door.
And then people always call us for them, and then we're like, nah, it's over there. But we were here first, man. These guys should change their name.
That's crazy. All right, so it was 12 stores and now it's just y'all. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
that.
There was a lot of racism back in the day, even just getting product.
Right.
Because why would they trust you guys to?
As in getting product from y'all.
No, getting a product from manufacturers.
I see. Because what did these Chinese people know about business? Yeah, I see. That's interesting.
Because you
should have been like, yo, we're good at numbers, man. Was that a stereotype when you were? Okay, cool.
Yeah, of course,
got it. Yeah.
But at the bottom line, at the end of the day, it's really my dad's passion that started it all.
And that passion kind of developed from just having that grace of being given those jobs when he got to Hong Kong.
Yeah, and just him pursuing it. We went from home consumer electronics to pro audio, and my dad used to do big sound systems for the West Indian community, like the Trinidadian, Jamaicans.
Oh wow, the block parties.
The only Chinese dude, or my mom was always with my dad, so they used to always go to the Puerto Rican Day parades. We used to do I have a lot of pictures of them doing the Puerto Rican Day parade, West Indian American Day carnivals. Yeah, we worked for the president.
Wow,
the top. And my parents even went to Trinidad for carnival a couple times.
That's so cool.
Yeah, because my dad would set up the big sound system, huge.
Wow,
we're talking huge, like a building size.
That is insane.
Yeah.
That's so cool. Yeah, because I know the Jamaican sound clash culture is it's big, and You know, you could
Mighty
argue.
Crown. You ever heard of Mighty Crown?
I haven't. No.
That the number one sound system crew. Well, for the longest time is Mighty Crown.
Mighty
and they're
Crown,
actually
okay.
Japanese.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
That's
And
crazy.
they used to shop at,
Look
with
at all
us.
this. Wow.
And then so even recently, these old Japanese heads, they're like closet like
Audiophiles.
weed heads
Oh,
and
yeah, yeah.
audiophiles
Yeah,
and
yeah.
sound guys.
Yeah.
And they used to follow Mighty Crown. And then I know a customer of ours. He's on 3rd Ave. He has like a great Japanese restaurant.
Yeah.
But on the 3rd floor is a reggae club.
Wow.
And this guy,
Yeah. Yeah. I learned something about reggae from a Hakka friend of mine. And he's like, yeah, when the Hakkas left China in early 1900s, that half of it went to Southeast Asia, half of them went to the Caribbeans, and actually the first reggae label was in Jamaica was founded by a Hakka descent. I was like, that's pretty cool.
No, that's why there's a lot of Chinese in
Jamaica. And also, I really didn't know anything about Jamaican sound clash, right? But last summer, I had an opportunity to participate in a Red Bull event, and it was called Culture Clash, basically based off Sound Clash. And they had the 4 NYC parades battle against each other on 4 different stages. They had like built some stages on the Brooklyn waterfront.
Oh yeah.
It was the West Indies parade, the Lunar New Year parade, the Pride parade, and then the Puerto Rican Day parade. And like we didn't really know what like sound clash culture was. We looked up some videos, we did some research. We're like, okay, so we're gonna just like do rounds of performance, blah blah blah. And when the West Indies guys was up, we're like, oh, this is what it's about. They won, like 4 rounds. They won that. They took that shit home.
Yeah, so that's what my dad used to do.
Wow.
And
they flew them to Trinidad.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, we used to sell
That's
so
crazy.
many subwoofers, just like shake your body to the core bass.
Yeah.
Nowadays he thinks everything is rinky dink.
Yeah.
Like all the sound and stuff.
I think people who are really into audio, they say that, right? Like they say all the best stuff has already been made,
Yeah.
Like my friend in Shaman, he's he runs a coffee shop / restaurant, but he's a big music guy, just passionately, as a hobby. And he has a room in the back of his a coffee shop, and it's a listening room that's based on the Kissa culture, the Kissa lounges. And all of the stuff is in there. It's all like tubes, analog. It's all like pre-70s stuff, like.
Yeah.
And he's like,
Some of that's coming back.
Yeah,
But,
I mean, if you can find them,
right?
right?
The hi-fi side, too.
Yeah.
Which
I
is
see.
great for homes and great for the bars or the clubs and stuff.
Yeah.
But,
Wait, so actually, since you brought this up, this is one of the questions that I wrote down.
okay.
Let's see. Yeah, how do you feel about since you were around this your whole life? I feel like, and you I think your father's experience kind of spoke to some of this already, but how do you feel about the role of music and like live events, play in terms of community building and breaking boundaries and, bringing people that are different colors together,
Especially in America, we don't see as many people like us in this field. And
why do you think that is?
I don't know. Well, growing up, this is just our experience,
Yeah.
In New York, you see people participating more, but in just naturally, most of our customers were like black, brown, Latin. Like I said, my parents used to always go to the most ghetto Brooklyn, Bronx, or whatever.
Yeah.
And then the other day,
all the fun parties, where all the fun parties were at.
But they said those days were it was fine.
Yeah.
The other day, I said, hey, I have a site visit for this club, over in this part of Brooklyn.
Yeah.
And then they're like, no, don't go. I'm like, what? Well, you used to go. He's like, no, well, now it's different. I was like, what? No, but back to your question.
That's hilarious.
back to your question. I mean, that's why I wanted to support you and guys like you, people who are come from our background and try to use music for, for spreading,
Healing, love. Yeah.
And just show that we have that ability, know. And so anytime anybody in our community, they try to do something, I'm always trying to help.
Yeah.
More and more people are doing these events for whether it's their brand or their, whatever it is, like an art thing or a community thing, especially like the rallies and stuff. We're always involved with that.
Mm-hmm.
Welcome to Chinatown,
Yeah.
I'm involved in Light Up Chinatown, the project to redo the lighting in Chinatown and stuff like that.
What's that about?
So it started with I think one of the heads is Chung Sito. She's like a community activist.
Okay.
And then Joanne is part of it. Joanne Kwan from Pearl River, and they were able to get funding from public funding to because it really started with man, I'm gonna butcher all this history, but there was a guy, Patrick Mock, who got funding to somehow do the lanterns that you see right now. It's been a few years, so.
Right? Like on Pell and whatnot. Yeah.
But it's been through the business improvement district, the Chinatown bid. It's expanded. But now it's at a state where it needs to kind of be redone properly.
Right.
Because it was kind of done for Chinatown during COVID when things were not great for Chinatown because of all the rhetoric.
It's like a symbolic thing.
Well, it was also for safety, get more lighting.
I see.
Get people back to Chinatown because during COVID, people basically abandoned Chinatown.
Right.
And so, but now we wanted to turn it into something like more that lasts longer and is better.
Yeah, that makes sense. That sounds awesome. So you're helping out with that, with the lighting side. Yeah. That's cool. Yeah, I mean, I definitely bump into in like a different events. I definitely have. In the past.
Well, help out Welcome to Chinatown. They're trying to help the community.
Do you do the Rochelle's block parties and stuff?
I help her with that. I help her. Whatever she needs.
Those are fun. Those are fun. I mean, she really built a community around that.
She's awesome.
Yeah. I'm curious, like, cause for me, I moved here when I was 11. I went to middle school, high school, college.
What year was that?
2003.
Okay.
Yeah. So I definitely didn't remember much Asian American or Chinese American history in schools.
No, not at all.
Right. What about when you were growing up?
All of it, like now.
Now, right? Yeah. Like was it like? I mean, for me, like I'm ashamed to say, but also it is what it is. Like I learned pretty much all of it, all of what I know now. Like during the COVID times, during
when we were growing up, we were just trying to, be part of the crowd and do the American.
That's what made sense.
Yeah.
To be American.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, like, what about like the other side of that? What about like well, not the other side. I guess this is exactly it. Did you ever see things that because your dad, came from, your mom was born here, but your dad came from China, right?
Yeah.
Did you ever see him do things that was hiding the Chinese side of him to make himself more American, more Finn?
Not really.
Okay, yeah.
What
was his name?
His English name?
English name, yeah, English name, yeah.
Kenneth Kwan.
Kenneth Kwan. Did he ever tell you how he picked the name Kenneth?
That's a good question. I'm gonna ask him that.
Okay, yeah.
His real name is Kwan Soy-sang.
Okay.
Kwan Soy-sang.
Yeah.
And then my mom is Jeanette Kwan.
Yeah.
Or Tinghua.
Yeah.
But
yeah. So it wasn't much like Asian American awareness.
We spoke Chinese.
Or
Cantonese.
Right.
That's why I can speak Cantonese.
Right. Do you understand Mandarin?
Mandarin, no.
Yeah, not at all.
Even my dad can't.
Right. Yeah.
because my mom could speak Cantonese, I guess that was the common,
Sure. Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And then Cantonese was the dominant language back in the day
Yeah.
in America, because most people were speaking Cantonese.
Right.
But now it's kind of shifted, or including Mandarin, you know.
Right.
And now I want to learn Mandarin more, or I can understand some.
Yeah.
It's
I think more people are learning Mandarin now too. That used to be just Cantonese speakers. Yeah.
I'm down with that. I'm also,
Yeah.
you know, I'm also trying to learn.
You think
more
there's a pride?
Spanish.
You think there's a pride thing,
Uh,
like between the Cantonese speaking and the Mandarin thing? It's
No,
like
I mean,
I don't
I
want to
think-
learn Mandarin. You know?
I mean, I want to learn
everything.
Mandarin. No, I want to learn Mandarin.
Yeah. No, not for
I-
you, but you know, just like in general,
But in
like
general,
Cantonese speaking.
Nah,
Yeah.
I don't think so. No.
Yeah.
I think in general, people who have Cantonese, they just probably want to keep it. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
and
That's
not
true.
have that die.
Yeah. 100%.
But I also want to learn, like I always try to learn more Spanish, because I'm always around Spanish speakers.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Well, all the jewelry ladies on Canal, I mean, they're all fluent in Spanish. You know, every time I'm in there
Oh, yeah?
window shopping, they're always, you know, ba 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 ba, you know, dishing it out. Like,
the Chinese ladies.
yeah, on Canal, like Tommy Jules and them, right? Like Tommy.
Yeah.
Do you know Tommy? Like Tom from Tommy Jules?
I know of him.
Yeah. Like his whole store was called Oro Latino. Like it was like
Oh, yeah.
it was a Spanish name. Every time I go in there, most of the people was
that's
Spanish
cool,
Spanish clientele.
I mean, that's the way our store is right now.
Yeah.
Because
yeah.
most of our customers are not Asian.
Right.
Because
Yeah. I mean, it made me think about what you were saying earlier. You know, not a lot of Asian people in this business. I mean, well, first of all, it's a tough business, right? Like. Because not only you're competing with other boutique stores like yourself, but you're competing with, the Best Buys, the Radio Shacks, all of that, you know.
We were selling consumer electronics and competing against them back in the day.
Right. And also, perhaps, like at that time, maybe, Chinese people who moved here, they saw opportunities in, like, different professions. They saw maybe like, oh, if I made it here, I need to go for like being a lawyer. I need to go for like being like a doctor,
yeah.
right? Like,
well, that was my first job. I wasn't. I worked part time in high school and college.
I'm just gonna raise this up for you just a little bit.
Yeah.
No, you don't have to do it. There we go.
I worked part time in high school and college, but right out of college, I actually became a software engineer. Well, I worked at Microsoft. They hired me, and I lived in Seattle for 4 years.
Okay.
So
and how did you like that? Did you like that?
No, I mean, I didn't really go to school to work in the store. So
right.
I that's like the natural path. Like you try to do lawyer, like you're saying, lawyer, doctor, or engineer or something.
Right.
And
take advantage of the opportunity or type of shit.
Yeah. Go to corporate America.
Yeah.
So it was great. It was great. And
did your parents push you to do something else, like not be part of the family business?
Not really. I mean, they never really said you're coming back to the business or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
I just naturally came back because corporate America just got boring for me. I mean, I just didn't really see myself building a future in Seattle, like working as a corporate software engineer.
Yeah.
So I mean, my brother, he's a chef, so we were kind of thinking of doing a restaurant, and then like the United States declared war on like Iraq, and during that time. And it was like a very tumultuous time, and so I ended up, we had 9/11, and then so I wanted to come home because I was like homesick, and spend more time with my parents, and so I just ended up like doing a website for them because e-commerce was starting to hit, and they didn't really have a website, and so the more things I did to help, the more I was like, you know what, I'll just stay here and hang out with my parents and work on this,
I think that's beautiful. I think that's like so beautiful. I think that like you went to the other side of the country and then realized, like, and then you started coming home and realized that's where it was at,
Because I wanted to say, you know, at the end of it all, I want to say like I had that experience with my parents.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. And one thing you said just now I thought was interesting was that you know, okay, well, so you were in Seattle. You say you missed home. You wanted to come home. That makes sense because I was like saying like, you know, during 9/11, like what did that make you feel like?
I was in Seattle at the time. It was
right.
It was upsetting. I was like,
but did it make like in that moment were you like, man, like I'm an American, like I, you know, like.
No, yeah, I always felt American.
Right. Okay, so you never like until people reminded you.
Yeah.
That, like
yeah.
you never really thought of yourself as like an immigrant, right? Because you're born and raised here. Like.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, you're still an outsider, you know.
But
you're not looking like American, but
do you
in New York?
But do you feel that way?
I don't feel that way
Right.
unless sometimes you get reminded.
But you do get reminded.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, less so in New York, but more.
Yeah.
It was more. I guess in Seattle you can feel it more because you had more, you know, less diversity there at that
Right.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, do you feel like there's any difference in how you feel as a Chinese person between, like, say when you're in the 80s, 90s versus now?
I mean, I was just thinking that, like, as you where you were about to ask that question, we used to do road trips for vacations because, you know, we couldn't really afford, like, the bigger, like, to fly places.
Yeah.
So we used to drive, and then you used to stay at these motels or, you know, go to, like, Florida. We just drive from New York to Florida to go to Disney or these things.
That sounds fun, though, road trip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then you're stopping at these places, and it was like, you know, North Carolina or Georgia and all these places. And you're really, you know.
In the sticks.
You're really different.
Yeah.
I'm sure, and even now, you know. But,
Yeah.
But back in the day, that was like, no Google, you know, it's all maps and things.
Right. So what would it be? Like funniest looks? Would there actually be things said to you guys?
All the things said to me all the time. Yeah.
Right.
And a lot of looks. Because, you know, sometimes you're like the first Chinese people they see.
Right.
And then I was a bigger guy as a kid, so.
That was probably threatening to them too.
Yeah.
They were probably like, oh, damn.
Yeah, I guess.
Oh man. So did you answer the question? Like, how do you feel now being Chinese versus then? I guess so. Yeah.
Well, I mean now.
Do you feel like do you feel like there was a pride of being Chinese all your life, or you feel like there was more of like a concern with being American and fitting in, and then in recent years now there's more like space and room for you to even be Chinese?
No, that you hit the nail on the head. Yeah, back in the day, you're just trying to assimilate, I guess. You're trying to follow the American dream or path.
So what were some things that you had to not do to assimilate? Was there anything? Can you think of anything?
You know, one thing that I can think about is when, I mean, I'm a little bit ashamed to say this, but like, my dad, he applied for his side of the family to come to the States, and this was in '86. So when all of them came, they're really fresh off the boat, you know.
Okay.
And then so we had like vans. Like, we picked them all up from the airport, like 25, 26, whatever.
Wow.
And so, you know, some of them would just, like, pick their nose and, like, put it on the...
Sure.
I'm like, damn, I gotta be around these people now. I'm like, meanwhile, I'm like 10. You know, I'm like 11.
Right.
You know, we couldn't be more different.
Yeah.
Because...
Yeah.
But then, you know, as you gain a more understanding of your culture, you're more... You know, you're more tolerant of that.
Yeah.
You know,
for sure.
and you're more embrace like your cultural history.
Yeah.
Maybe not so much like
you don't gotta love all of it.
Yeah.
You
like
don't
the
gotta
way
love
people
all of
are
it.
and stuff.
Yeah.
You know.
I mean, that's something that, you know, I came here at 11. I came here from like a pretty like a rural place, you know, where like we didn't have indoor like plumbing. You know, we like shared like our house with 4 other families, And so going to like from that to,
Where was your first home here?
Newton, Massachusetts,
Oh, yeah.
which is like a really rich suburb,
Oh, is it?
like,
Okay.
but so like that's the thing, like it's a rich suburb, but there's like government housing, so me and my mom and my stepfather would live in like a government housing. But when I tell people I'm from Newton, they're like, oh, that's a big money place, but anyway, so then I start going back to China and visiting family, and then I'll be in China and being like, yo, like people are like spitting everywhere, like people are not saying thank you, like they're not holding the doors. So like in my like early teen years, I really developed this like negative view about China, because I was so like bought in on the Western lifestyle. I would go back to China and be like, I can't believe people live like this, I'm so glad I got out of here. But as I got older and I started realizing like the nuances of things, then I started to like, like you said, feel ashamed about some of those earlier feelings, and then like really like discovering that the more I embraced this other side of me that's always there, no matter how hard I try to push it away to try to be more American,
But we're both,
It comes, it's always there, it's always there. We're both. That's the thing, but that's the thing. Even people that I feel like that are here from the 1800s, like even if they feel they're so American, there's still that part of them that's waiting for them to explore. Like.
I mean, I do make it a point to tell people that, my grandfather has been here since a long time ago.
Fought the war, fought for the country.
He gave up,
risked his life.
He risked his life for the country. So
yeah,
he's like a United States war hero. So
and that's
I have a lot of pride with that, and then I try to take that in anything that I do here. And even when my dad escaping, Cultural Revolution and all that,
right, swimming.
Yeah,
so
I can never complain about anything.
Yeah, I mean, well, I think that's that's something that I feel like a lot of us don't have, which is just this basic ability to be grateful. Mm-hmm. And do you feel like, just because you brought that up, and that's something that I try to pay attention to, Mm-hmm. I think at the end of it all, no matter how rich, how broke, how whatever you are, if you don't have gratitude, like you're gonna have a pretty miserable time, And how do you feel like you've always been able to have that?
Yeah.
Okay. What do you attribute that to?
Maybe my parents.
Yeah.
We were always, well, they still are the most humble people. If you look, if you see them, they don't wear anything flashy. They don't. Right. They have minimal desires and wants.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just the way they've always been.
Yeah.
Even my mom growing up here, my grandfather on my mom's side, he was like I said, he was a waiter and cab driver, but they were like a family of 7, and they barely had, they had like a house in Brooklyn, but they didn't really have anything like they saved money, and in those days they saved money so that they could put the sons through college, and then they told my mom that you're on your own. I mean, you got to figure it out. So that's how she was able to work hard, and she earned a full scholarship to Hunter College. And
wow.
That's how she was able to get out of that,
Yeah. Did you have siblings growing up?
My brother, yeah, he's a chef. Yeah.
Got it.
So my brother,
is he older or younger than you?
He's younger. He's like 2.5 years younger.
Okay.
He's like back in the day he break danced, beatbox.
Yeah.
You guys should meet.
Yeah.
And he's a chef.
Wow. So you guys were close growing up?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, did he attend a lot of the functions that your parents was setting up for?
I mean, we both got dragged to them. So,
right. Y'all was.
I have a little tinnitus because of the loud music. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then back in the day, my parents also did a nightclub.
Okay. What was the nightclub?
It was on 11th and I think 26th. It was
11th,
called
26th.
Velvet. First
Whoa.
called Studio, and then Club Velvet.
I like that.
They had like different. They had like the gay nights on Thursdays. They had like the Freestyle Fridays, and then
Whoa.
you
How
know,
long did they have that for?
for at least like about 2 to 3 years, maybe.
And
like,
were
this
you
is
old enough to
during-
be around all that?
I was like in high school,
Okay.
and they used to just after work at the store. They used to just drop off McDonald's, and then like, okay, we got to go back, to the club now.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we were high school kids. We were just
Yeah.
like me and my brother were just left alone.
Yeah. And where did y'all live?
So
In
we
Brooklyn?
first we were Brooklyn, but then
Yeah.
when I was 12, we moved to Manhattan.
Got it. Cool. Nice.
It was a converted studio into 1 bedroom,
Mm-hmm.
and then my brother and I slept in the living room.
In what
And
part of
futons.
in around Chinatown or
Actually, on City Hall.
City Hall? Okay, yeah.
Right next to China.
Right there. Yeah.
But actually, we grew up in
yeah.
Brooklyn, but they always drove us to Chinatown for our school. Our elementary school, we went to Chinatown. They kind of, I guess they made us go to Chinatown.
Yeah, that's cool to be close to the, because y'all was in Bay Ridge, Brooklyn.
Mhm.
But was 8th Ave a popping thing at that
Yeah,
time?
yeah.
Okay, so 8th Ave Chinatown
Yeah.
was there as well.
Yeah.
Wow, I love that 8th Ave,
Yeah.
8th Ave Street, the whole
I
8th
feel
Ave situation. I remember my first time going there. I was like, this is arguably kind of more like Chinese than the Manhattan.
Well, how about
Chinatown.
Flushing though? Flushing is
Well,
pretty-
Flushing too. Yeah.
Flushing
Very
is
much
crazy. But then Flushing's got a mix of other ones.
right.
You got the Indians, got the Koreans.
That's right. Yeah. What do you think? What do you enjoy the most about your job? Because I'd assume that the two things that you talked about. You said like, oh, me and my brother could have done a restaurant. That's a very people facing situation.
Yeah, hospitality. Yeah.
Right? So you like people. You like the connecting with people.
Yeah. I like helping people.
Mm-hmm.
My analytical side, my engineer side. I do a lot of installations and designs and installations for bars and clubs, and then we also do production.
Mm-hmm.
So production means event production,
Mm-hmm.
and so we're always constantly using new technologies to do, new lighting or new video or and there's really no Asian. I mean, there's one other Kwan in the event production, Brian Kwan. His family is interesting too. They're from Peru. And they opened they have a restaurant called Flor de Mayo in the Upper East Side or Upper West Side.
Okay.
Really good Chino Latino.
Oh wait, is this spot talked about? I feel
Yeah. No, it's well known. It's very well known.
Yeah.
And Brian Kwan his company Premier Vibes. He's the only other kind of Chinese guy production company.
Yeah.
But nobody really does what we do. We're a store. We do installations, and then we do production.
Right.
So,
if I found a empty warehouse and I wanted to throw an event in there, I'd be like, yo, I need that set up with sound and light. Right.
Yeah.
That's sick.
Yeah. So, what was your question?
My question was, what's the best part about your job?
Oh yeah, you know what? The more we did it, the more I was involved, the more I just the more I learned about being in the hospitality business. It's tough. So many restaurants are opening and closing.
Yeah.
All the time. In our 48-year history.
It's crazy y'all are there for so long.
No, but that's why I'm man, I'm glad I didn't do that because it's so much harder than it sounds.
Right.
I'd love to serve people and to have great food, drinks, show people a great time, but the economics are tough,
Yep.
And I'm glad to be able to do it from my side of it, with sound, lighting, giving people a better acoustical environment, because we do acoustics too.
Oh yeah.
It's just, and then I get to still do events, culinary events. Right now we just did I don't know if it's hush hush, but it's for a celebrity chef, a Michelin star chef from Chicago. He's doing a world tour. They're adding a lighting element. They're turning it from white to UV. So I guess there's elements of UV on the plates or I don't know.
I see. It'll reveal something or something
to make it like blacklight. You know,
Oh, cool.
so the lights will change from white to UV. It's for a
Wow.
month-long thing. It's in Brooklyn. So we just finished setting that up.
That's cool, man. I
Yeah.
mean, like, I feel like when people walk past a shop like yours, like, they don't think about y'all being involved in creative projects like that.
You have to be more than
know?
a store. You have to always go out of your comfort zone. And
Right.
you know, our ancestors, they challenged themselves. They went out of their comfort zone. They risked it all for us.
Yeah.
Our opportunities. So
Yeah.
like, there's nothing to be afraid of.
For sure. For sure. I mean, one of the things that you said earlier, just you bringing up, our forefathers, is setting the tone and like the opportunity for us,
Yeah.
One thing that you said earlier is that as much chance as you get, you let people know. It's like, hey, my pop's been here, and our family contribute to the country. And like for me, like a song like this, right? Like Great Wall of America, I'm not like asking anybody for anything. Like I'm well aware the people that mistreated the railroad workers was 200 years ago.
Yeah.
The white people here now, they're not the same people,
Yeah.
But for me, it's not like I'm asking for any sort of apologies or nothing. It's more for us to know. It's more like it's
That's a
healing
good
for
point.
us
That's
to
a good
know,
point.
like
Yeah.
to know our stories, like. Otherwise, like we'll constantly think like, what is this like nagging insecurity you have? Oh, it's just like because maybe it's this, maybe it's that. Maybe you think it's something that has to do with yourself, But maybe it's just because like, yo, like listen, like trauma don't really get healed until you face it head on and address it and talk about how it made you feel, like. And for me, like. Writing, I didn't realize until recently, but over the years, as I'm writing about my life, I'm self-therapized, it's therapy is basically, because when my like conscious brain when in the moments when my conscious brain doesn't kick in to block the flow of consciousness that I'm writing, I look back on some of those lyrics, I'm like, wow, like I wasn't writing that, like a deeper part of me was pushing
Coming
that
out.
out. Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah.
And so for me, like because I had a really somebody that I really admire mixed the song. His name is Eric Lau. He's a British Chinese guy that lives in Xiamen. And he was mixing the song. He asked me, he goes, "Is this how you feel, man? Like you want to be accepted as like, American? You don't want to, I'm like, to be honest, like." Yes and no. Like, no, because there wasn't ever any moment in my life where I'm like, I wish I was white, But yeah, like in high school parties, maybe there were moments where I'm like, man, like all the girls seems to like the non-Asian dudes, even the Asian girls, So maybe in moments like that, there was thoughts of like, man, if I was white, maybe I'd get some more pussy, But there was never like an active thought of like, I want to be white, So no, I don't really feel like that. But to answer his question, yes, I do feel like that because, like I was saying, like this is more about, speaking up and to ourselves, reminding ourselves, telling our stories, I found it very interesting that up from 2003 in America up until all the Asian hate stuff because of COVID, there was no emphasis on talking about Asian stuff, Chinese stuff.
Yeah.
And so honestly, since then, that emphasis has gone away too, And even as I'm writing this song, I'm like, who's asking for this? Like this feels like one of my friends said, yeah, maybe it feels a little late. And I was like, wait, like was art talking about our history and like our story and like healing just dedicated to those 2 years when direct trauma was being affected on us? The rest of the time we're like, well, we're not being like directly attacked, so now we don't have to talk about that anymore because maybe it's too much for other people.
Well, sometimes we compartmentalize some trauma and then it doesn't come until later,
Right.
Like just growing up, just trying to survive and not, just trying to get through it all. And then, I mean, I think it's amazing that it's coming out now.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and I think all that explosion of emotions was, like you said, all the years have pent up of, like even like, people like myself, like kind of being upset at myself, being like, man, like,
Yeah.
all these years I really like didn't really care about, you know, my place in history, you know.
Yeah.
But I don't know, like I think growing up, like even for me, you know, so it must have been for you too, but even for me, the last 20 years, most of it was you're either like on the black side or you're on the white side, you know. There was no room to
Yeah, that's why
be
there's a lot
Asian.
of. That's why growing up, I listened to a lot of hip hop.
right. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
we identified with it a lot. I mean, we even used to say the N word with the A at the end, you know.
right. Yeah.
And then, I mean, I'm not saying it again, but
Yeah, I know, for sure.
back in the
But
day,
yeah, when you were younger,
we were just part of New York culture back in the day.
Yeah.
Nobody's really. I mean, we weren't racist like that, you know.
yeah,
You
didn't know better.
No, we were
Yeah.
just all kids, you know. So
Yeah.
it's just a cool part of cool culture, you know.
Exactly. Yeah, like people ask me about, you know, our you know, our rappers in China, you know, appropriating hip hop. I'm like, well, you know, like this kid grew up playing basketball and he like heard hip hop through watching an NBA game and saw the dreads on his favorite basketball player. He's never been to the States. He doesn't know about black and white history. He just wanted to feel cool like his favorite basketball player.
Yeah.
Now, is he culture appropriating? I guess from a very specific lens, sure. But like, what would I call that? I would call that just somebody that's following somebing that gives him power and gives him
I mean,
confidence. You know,
everybody
like,
borrows from everybody else, like
Yeah.
Wu-Tang Clan, you know.
I know. I say. You know, one of my lines is like, "Yo, Wu-Tang's the first Asian rappers alive." You know, like, you know, and Wu-Tang's the best Asian rapper alive. The rest I leave for y'all to decide. You know,
Yeah.
like, and it's true, right? Like, I feel like without like the influence of the culture that they took, I mean, imagine how many rappers wouldn't have been influenced because if they didn't exist.
Yeah.
You know,
No, yeah,
like,
no.
But yeah, I thought I don't even know what was the initial question, but I'm glad we got to Wu-Tang, you know.
I love Wu-Tang.
Yeah.
Raekwon the chef.
Yo, but Ghostface recently has been on Twitter tweeting about like meme coins, and
Really?
a little disappointing, man. But you know, but Ghost is the legend. Maybe he's
Yeah.
just trolling, you know. Maybe he's just.
I
trolling.
went to a concert like a year and a half ago in Seattle.
Okay, nice.
Yeah, it was pretty.
Did
cool.
you go back specifically for
Yeah.
specifically for that?
Yeah,
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Did it bring up any memories of you were in your Seattle earlier years in Seattle?
I mean, I listened to a lot of that during college.
Mhm.
Yeah, during my Seattle years. I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's always a nostalgic memory for me.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, you know, you talked about that you listened to a lot of hip hop, a lot of rap, and so what was your friend groups like? Was there Chinese people, Asian people, you know,
that's a good
non-Chinese,
question.
you know?
Well, you know how my parents took me to Chinatown
Yep.
every day because I was attending PS 124 in Chinatown.
Mhm.
So my friends were Chinese.
Mhm. Got it.
But in middle school, you know, we expanded. Expanded more.
Mhm.
But and in high school, went to Stuyvesant. It was all nerdy people.
Okay.
Predominantly like Asian or white.
Okay.
Some Hispanic, but
Yeah.
there's very little black people in the at Stuyvesant.
Mhm. Where's
So-
Stuyvesant?
Stuyvesant is on Chambers and West Street. It's like the
Okay.
it's like the one of the top specialized high schools that you have to
Got it.
test to get into.
Okay. Got it.
So at the time when I was applying, when you test, about 51% were Asian,
Mm. Mhm.
and then now it's like 70%
Right.
Asian.
Right.
But I got to hang around with more different ethnicities because I was on the football team and the wrestling team.
Oh, no shit.
So I got to hang out with a lot more black and brown people. Like, you know, we used to be teammates. We
Yeah,
used to be
yeah.
brothers.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
Even when you're wrestling, you know, you're handling each other a lot. You know, you're
Yeah.
freaking trying to beat each other up. You know,
Oh, yeah, for sure.
or
And you're
train
protecting each other.
train each other.
Yeah.
you know, essentially.
Yeah. I did football and wrestling
Yeah.
too.
Oh shit.
We can talk about that later.
Oh,
yeah,
yeah?
yeah.
Yeah. No,
Was that like of your own accord, or did your parents like think?
no
like,
my
hey,
parents
like,
didn't want us to do that. no.
Right.
But I think after a while they saw it, like it was good. you
Yeah.
know.
To like make friends, like
Yeah.
get you out of that, like keep you like this, like from getting in trouble and stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So my you know, when I moved here, my mom was working. So when my mom, before she came, she was working real estate in Shenzhen. She was making a pretty penny too, and this is before
Oh, wow.
China really boomed. But she decided to come here and become a lab assistant for a friend at like a cancer research institute. So she ended up learning English, chemistry, and biology, like just by herself. Like
Wow.
and yeah, so she was busy. So my stepfather, my white Swedish stepfather, is the one that took me around.
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
So as soon as I got to Boston in 2003, he had the foresight somehow to be like, oh, well, his mom is not around the house. Maybe he needs some like Asian stuff to be around. So he took me to Chinatown to learn Hungarian martial arts. At like 11 years old, So I had and then he encouraged me to join the football teams, wrestling teams, to make friends and stuff. So he really like helped me assimilate in that way,
Yeah, you get football's culture, American culture.
American culture. Also like really helped me break down the barriers of black, white, Asian, whatever, because you're on the same team. You're like standing in the freezing rain together, your hands on your balls, like you're not playing any games this season, but you're still there, shivering next to each other. And like and wrestling too, like this one-on-one sport where like you really recognize each other's humanity, because you're literally physically handling each other.
Especially when you're practicing every day and like we used to carry each other, up and down stairs and stuff. Like I don't know,
and also those like what are those firemen cross
wheelbarrow?
where like I'm holding onto from beneath
legs,
you, and you're like you're trying to you're crawling like this, and someone's holding. You know what I mean? Like it's very intimate stuff, and you build friendships and bonds. I definitely think being in those sports helped me be more American too.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I also play lacrosse. I guess that was the moment where I tried to be white, the most obvious moment. I grew my hair out, tried to play lacrosse.
Did you get as a team? We got a lot of looks because we were all like white and Asian. Because most of the other teams were like black that we were playing against.
Yeah, we were pretty mixed. It was a good amount of everything, pretty much.
Yeah.
We did play against this one school called Catholic Memorial, and they were all just
white,
bad white boys, and they were calling us chinks, the N-words, and all that. And I'm like, this is 2008, it's not like the 90s, These kids are out here wilding,
Oh man.
But I think those moments really bonded us as a team, I suppose.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the best part of your job, connecting with people, helping people. And what would be like the hardest part of your job, or the worst part of your job, if there was one? Because I feel like a lot of the challenges are good to have.
Well, some of them, you always try to learn from situations and things.
Mm-hmm.
I guess the most challenging, sometimes making like a design mistake and having to, but then that also kind of, you like once you make a mistake and then you have to try to fix it, you have to technically fix it or redesign it or something. Then it kind of shows you what kind of like balls you have, I guess.
Sure.
Because you have to
what
basically
kind of resolve you have.
You have to just double down and go in and fix it, and then it's more rewarding that way. But I mean, it sucks at first because then you're
I mean, man, but you're what you just described is something that's it's called delaying gratification. And I think that's something that's worth highlighting. I think that what you said about facing the problem, working through it, then feeling even more rewarded. I think that's something that everybody needs, as a reminder, like.
Well, sometimes, and then sometimes you try to put your best foot forward, and then you design it a certain way, but then you didn't see certain things, or somebody throws you curveballs, and then, or a client has different expectations that wasn't communicated, and now it's just showing your ability to resolve things and try to think quick on your feet. I mean, sometimes that sucks,
Sure. Yeah.
Just having to deal with that. But
Yeah.
I mean, overall, like I love it. I mean, I love selling things.
Yeah.
I love seeing stuff actually, seeing the event happen like in its glory.
Yeah.
It's like, man, we did that.
Yeah.
We-
And people's faces, they're happy.
yeah.
Wow.
And this was like nothing before, and now it's an amazing event, and you
Yeah.
know, it's crazy.
Well,
And
what do
then-
people come up and say to the people that rent from you when they have like an amazing event? What are some of the responses?
I mean, it's just we get a lot of great reviews.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
some people are like, "Oh, you did all this?" You know,
Yeah.
I was like, "Yeah, well, you know, not just me. You know, it's
Right.
like,
Right.
I got a great team.
Me and the
you know,
gang.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Did you have any I guess idols growing up as a Chinese American person in America? Did you have anybody that you're like, you know, whether Asian, black, white, whatever, that was like, man, that guy,
Well,
that
besides
guy
my
gives
parents,
me energy.
you know, but my parents, like, besides my parents and you know my grandfather and stuff, like I did look up a lot to Jackie Chan
Hell yeah.
because he's so tough and he's so funny.
Yeah.
And like he was just, I used to watch a lot of Chinese movies.
Yeah.
You know, that kept my culture on the Chinese side.
Yeah.
Whether or not it was real culture or whatever, but it's part of like
I think
Chinese
it was.
culture. Yeah.
I think it was. I
Yeah.
definitely think so.
It was
Yeah.
awesome, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. Jackie was, you know, more humor with it. You know,
Yeah.
it seemed like,
And he worked so
alright.
hard.
He worked so hard. Yeah, it seemed like, okay, things are bad, but he always seems to have a pretty good attitude about it. Whereas, like, when I watch Jet Li movies, I'm just mad. You know, like, Jet Li is just mad. You know? Yeah.
No, and then I'm also into the culinary world, so it was like some writers and
Okay.
food
Yeah.
personalities that. But now you can have. Now anybody could be like a food blogger, food.
Now anybody can be anybody.
Yeah, no, yeah.
Can be anything. You know, there's good and bad about that.
Yeah, it's good
Yeah.
and bad. Yeah, I mean, you just need your little audience.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah. Is that something that you feel like you learned from having the shop? Is like, you know, needing just being able to, if you have your audience, or if you have your customers, the people that you do right by consistently, that
yeah.
you don't really need a million people to love you.
Well, you hit the nail on the head. I mean, so you know, with the business, you're always changing. So when I came back, we did the website. We're like, oh yeah, we got to sell online. Everybody's selling online. But then you realize that like everybody's just competing on price, and then you don't create any loyalties with anybody. Like with the people who are just buying on price and buying, and they're gonna have the time. They're gonna want to return something, and you know, you want to create relationships. You want to create like. I want to have a stake in your business, and you want to, you know, you want to be able to get the best advice from somebody, a professional like me.
Yeah.
I want to care, like you want somebody that cares about you and wants to, you know, gives you the best advice, like steer you the right way, you know. So we had to learn that over the years, and we had to learn about the changing technologies and how. Like, so you can't just like, for us, we're not set up to sell online, to sell out, move a lot of boxes. We have New York. We have New York businesses. We have New York DJs, artists, you know. Whoever wants to come here, let's give them the best service. Let's give them the best experience. And then we're in this together. Like, we're in the long term, 48 years plus.
Yeah.
We're not going anywhere. So, you know, we just want to find quality customers who want to use us. We're not going to be the cheapest, you know.
Well, the best shouldn't be the cheapest.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's just be honest.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, same with you know, a lot of times in Chinese, like some of these Chinese culture, you know, we you know, we shouldn't be the cheapest food or the cheap, you know.
Yeah, I agree. You know, that's something that it was an actual thought when I first moved to New York in 2010. I used to take girls on dates, whatever. You know, back then it was just like Italian restaurants. You know, and I'd be like, man, what's fucking bowl of pasta? Fucking $30. You know, like get some Chinese food and it's like $5.99. You know. And now I love seeing like Sichuan food is like $30 for a plate, like double cooked pork,
Yeah.
even though like it fucks me up because I'm like,
Yeah.
it breaks bank every time I go get it, you know. But I'm happy, you know. I'm glad that like look like, you know, I think that is like, you know, one small way of us claiming our seat at the table. You know, it's like, look, our cuisine can be priced just as much as your cuisine. So simple, but
it's just as much as work and
just as much, maybe even more, even more. But you know, so what do you feel like that the relationship part is even more so now that, for example, I can just go on Amazon and get something shipped to me real quick?
Yeah, I mean,
and has that affected your business at all? Stuff like Amazon.
Well, of course, instant gratification culture is does affect us. It affects everybody. You know, it affects every industry. You just have to be patient and find customers that want to work with you, and say not everybody's for you. And just have that.
Not everybody's for you.
You just have that, like, you know, patience, or just know that, you know, you're worth your time is worth something. So you want to. Man,
I mean, you're speaking a lot to like just how I've been feeling lately. To be honest, you know, like, you know, Instagram, it is what it is. You throw something up and you never know how it's gonna go. You know, and I used to just let how well a post does just affect how well I think like my thing is, you know, my work is. But in recent times, I'm like, you know, I'm leaving it up because I know that this is a good piece of work.
Yeah.
I'm not hiding the likes. I'm not, you know, turning off comments. I'm not doing any of that. I'm done trying to do the work for other people to, you know, to try to like justify like whatever, you know, numbers or something. And the patience that you talk about, the resolve that you talk about. I feel like if you actually have those two and just focus on those two, with patience, which requires consistency, right? So if you're spending the energy to be consistent and put it in the quality, you really don't have the energy to focus on any of the negative stuff, you know, like. But if you don't have that resolve, you haven't done the work to know that this is worth it, then you're always gonna look for that external validation. And what you said about not everyone is for you, I mean, that's something that I forget about all the time, and I find myself reminding myself all the time, which is a lot of lessons that I find too. It's like, it's not about knowing, it's about implementing on a day-to-day basis.
I mean, sometimes I even like yell at the customers, like, "Hey, man, if they'll give me a quote, and like it's all trash, and then like, I'm not. I'm not. You're giving me a list of trash, and you want me to compete with that?
And how do people respond to like honesty? Mostly good, or like they appreciate that?
Okay, so the most recent example is a customer gave me a list of import equipment for me to bid against. Okay. And I was like, well, you know, none of this has warranties, none of this has compliance with any kind of electrical compliance, or, you know, do you want to sleep at night?
Oh, he wanted you to match a price that he had, right?
Yeah, I was like, but all this is like, but you couldn't see any model numbers. Right. Everything's all like, you know, very vague terms on it. But I know that what they are. Right. Is gonna buy an import thing and then feed it to the customer, and then it is a bit cheap, but you know, not so much where I could give you better quality. Yeah. You could sleep at night. You could be proud of what you have. You have a couple years of warranty. You know, and you could just give your customer the better product. Yeah. You know, maybe they don't know exactly, you know, what lights you put up there, but the feeling will be there. Yeah. You know, how they'll take in your place, like, wow, this was worth paying this much to have a drink here, or to have, you know, and the acoustical environment, you know, I feel good at the end of the night. You know, I want to come back, you know, not just like flash and trash, or, you know, there's like a nuance to it, you know? Yeah. But, you know, but not every customer is going to see eye to eye with that, unless you kind of like smack them in the face a little bit. And then, but if they don't, that's fine. I'm like, dude, I don't need to waste any more time.
Right. Yeah.
basically.
But that's good. I mean, like, I feel like I've always appreciated whenever I go into, like, for example, when I go into a business and people like give me like the honest opinion. You know, when I had a guitar laying around. I brought it to Guitar Center to sell. They're like, honestly, we can give you 60% of what it's worth, or you can sell it online yourself and make a lot more money. I was like, yo, thank you for letting me know, you know, because I didn't know what I had. It's been sitting, it was gifted to me by an event that I did. It ended up being like $1,000 guitar that was sitting under my bed for the last 4 years while I was, you know. And they're like, "Yo, we can give you $600, or you put it on eBay. Someone will grab it for $1,000, you know." And I sold it for $1,000, you know, because technically it's a $1,500 guitar, you know.
Wow. Yeah.
So I mean, I appreciate that, you know. Like, that means I had to lug the guitar back all the way home. It was heavy with the case and stuff, but you know.
No, yeah, we always give it straight.
Yeah.
Yeah, we always give
Yeah.
quality, honesty. You know, we tell the customer, you know, we only provide good stuff at our place.
Yeah.
You know.
I know you said like not a lot of Chinese customers, mostly Black or Hispanics.
I mean, lately, like you said, like with the space that with a lot of more Asian like
People are hitting you up
creatives,
now.
yeah. Which
So-
is really great to see, yeah. But not like the like, you know, Chinese restaurants, they don't care about sound. You know?
Right.
They're not. You don't hear the nice sound system. You know?
Yeah, for sure.
Unless you go to like Chinese Tuxedo or one of my guys over there, Tiger. You know, those are Chinese guys.
Right.
But they care about it. But they're more on the Americanized, international side.
Sure.
But most Asian-owned businesses, they just want to.
Yeah.
They're just focusing on the food and the decor, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I used to, you know, for the martial arts, I used to line dance for Lunar New Year's, you know, the parade, go to different shops and stuff.
My brother does that.
Yeah. I love that, you know, and then doing weddings and stuff. But I remember like all the banquet weddings and stuff, you know, like the sound comes through the little ceiling and it sucked. It just sucked. The mic sucked. Everything sucked, you know. But yeah, I mean, I guess that's just not something that I guess people in our culture really cared about.
I think maybe, hopefully, the younger generation will
I think
care
so
more.
too. Yeah, I think so too. Yeah. Do you feel like seeing all the different, you know, ethnic backgrounds and different people and different culture, people renting from you over the years, could you is there anything that ties up everybody like in commonality in different like backgrounds and immigrant cultures that you?
I mean, Hispanic people love Caribbean. They love music. They love dancing. You know, Chinese, Asian people don't dance that much. Right.
So you find a lot of like non-Asian cultures, they come through, and like the commonality is that they all just like love this communal parties and dancing and all that.
Even in just backyard, their sound systems could be like a club sound system, but for their basement or backyard.
Right.
Yeah,
wow.
they buy enough for that.
I mean, like that has to say something about the different ways that our cultures are, you know, like, because it's such a it's such a drastic difference, you know. Like, I always like when I think of like, you know, older Asian folks playing like records in at home settings, it's almost like always like a scene out of a movie that I can reference, you know, like a Wong Kar-wai movie or like something, you know. Yeah, even like, cause I'm doing this like Marshall speaker giveaway to my mailing list, and the way that I pick winners is I'm asking people to share like their earliest memory of hearing music around the house. And as I'm writing that, I was like, oh, that's not gonna be a lot of Asian folks.
No, yeah, exactly.
But those who did grow up with like some Teresa, you know.
I mean, Rochelle could probably tell you about lot of that. No, she has a lot of experience with collecting music, and
she's got a
that's
vault.
why growing up we were mainly around Hispanic Puerto Ricans.
Yeah.
My parents were hanging around a lot of record pools.
Yeah.
Back in the day.
Do they speak Spanish?
No.
Okay.
No.
Yeah.
They just we were like the only Asians in that crowd.
Yeah.
You know.
Wow.
Yeah.
And did you feel less othered when you were with like an ethnic crowd than versus when you were in like a room full of white people?
For sure.
Yeah. That's cool.
Maybe it was because my dad's like gifted technical abilities, you know,
Yeah.
that made us more like treated more like VIP because we were like, hey,
y'all made the parties.
The Chinaman, the sound guy, the sound man, he's here. We gotta, you know,
important people.
Yeah,
You guys
yeah.
make sure the things went down.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. I love that. Whatever.
I was proud of that.
Hell yeah.
Small Chinese. My dad's like 5'2", 3 or whatever, maybe 5'5", 5'5".
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say 5'2", 5'5".
Yeah.
But yeah, I was like, man, even growing up, and you guys just go into the hood, and you know, this is weird. Thinking about it now, but
oh, for sure. No, I mean, like, I love that you say that, like, being proud of that, you know, like, and earlier when I asked you, did you have any idols growing up, it struck me that you said, yeah, your parents, you know, like,
they always risk it all.
But I mean, like, a lot of our parents, you know, have risked, you know, in relative to what they know, but we used to, or they don't appreciate that, you know, like, and the fact that not only you are aware of it, but you actively like acknowledge that, yo, like, these are the people that did that for me, and I aspire to be like that, you know, like,
we're standing on their shoulders, you know.
I mean, I know it's so obvious to you, but I feel like these are some of the values that, you know, my generation are lacking, you know, and I think with
they're more used to stuff getting handed to them.
Yeah, for sure. But also just like this idea of like being proud of our parents, you know, it's not something that we ever think about. We're like, we worship a celebrity or worship like somebody's song that changed our lives when we were a teenager or something, you know, like.
I think it's more, these stories are more prevalent in the generation before, maybe.
Yeah.
Because even my wife is Korean, by the way.
Okay.
But my wife's dad, he escaped North Korea.
Got it.
And then they together with his wife, they moved to Brazil. So that's where my wife grew up, actually.
In Brazil?
Yeah, in Brazil, in Sao Paulo.
Got it.
So these people risked, and then subsequently later on in life, they risked it again, and they moved to California.
That's right.
And then, you know, started a new life in California when my wife came to California when she was like 16. And then my wife even came to New York, you know, on her own. And then the family followed her from there, and then that's where I met her. But,
got it.
You know, I don't know, maybe it's the older generation or what, but that willingness to take risks like that was maybe more back then. I don't know. Yeah,
maybe back then, like, the risk that you had to take was more tangible, like moving to a place or going somewhere, because the opportunities wasn't so much in the palm or on a laptop, you know.
True.
Maybe nowadays there's less of a sacrifice in terms of moving, but people are sitting in front of a screen for like 10 years of their life at a time now, you know.
Yeah, they weren't doing this.
Yeah, that's a different type of sacrifice.
To do this.
Yeah, I think you know, like, I always romanticize my mom's generation because, you know, this idea that back then if you had a job, you were grateful. You had a partner that took care of you, you took care of them, you were grateful. And like everything on top of that was just a bonus, you know, like you made some money, like you hit it, you know, whatever, awesome, you know. But I do think, you know, it's for me to even have some awareness, it took years of trial and error, you know, like to have any sort of awareness, you know. And I try to, you know, outside of music, like just on a friend-to-friend basis in my people in my life, you know, like I feel like conversations like these is so important. But this is just like a really random question. If you were, say, you were traveling in Italy, right, like, and somebody like, you know, say, hey, can you take a photo for us? Boom, boom, boom. It's like, oh, thank you so much. Where are you guys from? You know, what would you say in that situation?
Well, I used to always say America.
Right.
Yeah, American. I'm American.
Which is true.
But now it's like, with the political climate now.
Yeah. Oh, I see.
It's more the political climate than
right. Yeah.
like, oh, should we say we're from America?
Yeah, I see.
I don't know. We're
Wow.
the Paris Climate Accord or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Where it's now you want to. You just want peaceful interactions.
Yeah.
With people, you don't want them to think a certain way. Oh, you're American, or you are.
Yeah. So would you say there was a point in your life there would be no hesitation where you'd be like, yeah, I'm proud that I'm from America. And
I've always said I'm from America.
Right. But now there is a slight hesitation of what it means to be American.
It's not because I'm not going to say I'm Chinese.
Right. Yeah.
Because I can't really act like I'm Chinese.
Yeah.
That would be
Yeah, for sure.
But when I was younger and I went to China a couple times with my parents to visit family, I definitely didn't feel Chinese.
Right.
Like you were saying.
Yeah. This is this idea of too foreign for here, too foreign for home.
Yeah.
Like over here, you're a passport holder, you're here for multiple generations, but people look at you as a foreigner.
Yeah.
But back home, you look like them, but the minute you open your mouth, or just by the way you kind of like
you wear,
move around
even
the
when
house,
you wear, exactly.
what you wear, like people are like, you spend some time overseas, right? Like
you're not really Chinese, are you?
Yeah. And I definitely find this concept, like, too foreign for here, too foreign for home, be both like a blessing and a curse. A blessing because we have the perspectives and the luxury to have them, but a curse definitely sometimes, like I'm completely torn. If I want to live in China where the rest of my family is, where people speak Chinese, or if I want to be here where it seems like there's more of like a challenge to do greater and things to challenge my personal boundaries and all that,
It's definitely harder for you because you have that family in China.
Right.
And then where my family, most of them is here.
Yeah.
And then, but now my dad's more embracing his Chinese side.
How's his health?
Because some of the American. Oh no, my parents' health is pretty good. Yeah.
Do they like take trips back to
they do
Hong Kong and
they're on this whole. The last few times have been searching for like their roots kind of situation.
I love that. Wow.
So my mom, like on the most recent trip. In like just this late last year, they went back to Toisan and the old village, and then they had a big dinner, like of all these different families.
Did they get reconnected with some people?
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, the weird thing was that when my grandfather left, like I think there was like plans for his older brother to move, like on the papers that they got. But he was already kind of like a professor, and he had like a little life for himself and stuff. And so they said, you know what, to my grandfather, you're going instead. I think he was like 16 or 17.
Whoa.
Like something crazy.
Wow.
And then, but long story short is that they have like a family tree, and it's like a book, and my grandfather's name was there, but after that, there's nothing else there.
Wow.
No like. But now my mom came back.
Yeah.
And she was able to fill in some of the like that he had a family.
Yeah.
In America.
Wow, this is such symbolic and such significant and symbolic moments for them. I bet.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
Like, did they come back to just ask them about like how did it feel and all that, reconnecting with people?
No, they love seing.
Was it emotional?
They love seeing the family there.
Did they cry? Did they talk about it? Did they cry? Like
I don't. Did they cry? No,
ask Kenneth that, along with why he picked Kenneth. I would love to know.
Exactly.
I think we're winding down because like time. But just last question for you. Now that you're a father, you have a daughter.
I have a 19, 17, and 15.
Okay.
No, 18, 16, 14. Sorry.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. So fairly grown. Yeah. Well, what is something that you try to share with them that so that they still experience the growing pains in life, but something that you can share with them that they can maybe skip some of the bullshit that you had to endure.
I mean, it's tough within this generation, you know.
I like you. I like that you paused a little. Look at me, like,
yeah,
like is that, are you part of that generation?
No.
No, it's true. It's true.
Not you.
Yeah.
Well, my kids, right? They grew up with everything they had everything that they needed, but also it's a little different. Well, not different in a sense that my wife is Korean. There's the Korean culture, but
that's right.
My kids get to see me every day, and they get to see me work hard all the time, and they know stories about, you know, my in-laws or my family, but them hearing the story is like, oh wow, you know, and then I mean, it doesn't go deeper yet. It hasn't gotten deeper yet.
Right.
I don't know why I internalized it more as growing up.
Yeah.
I guess I kind of put myself in those shoes. Like, oh, my grandfather at this age, he was like fighting the war, you know?
Right.
Or just like slugging it out in a taxi.
Yeah.
Or, you know, I just think about it in that sense, you know.
Right.
We're, you know, what life was like for an immigrant. Like now it's so much easier, but it's harder to impress upon this to the younger generation when it's hard to really actually feel that situation. So there's nothing that they did wrong.
Right.
They're just handed a different set of cards.
Yeah.
And so, you know, you just hope that like even like with your generation, just putting it out more, appreciating it, shining a light on it, just doing things that you can push yourself to doing.
I think you said like also like you're leading by example.
Yeah.
I think that's probably the best way to share it all, you know.
Yeah.
And then like the last thing I want to share is, you know, just what you said about, you know, they don't get that same grit, right?
Yeah,
like,
yeah, exactly.
So there's this movie, Chinese movie last year I saw. It's about this billionaire in Shanghai who grew up super poor in the village and went through all the, you know, stereotypical struggles. But he ended up buying like a big courtyard in Shanghai to make it decorated to look like really broken and like stuff, and he raised his kid in there, and then like curates his way to school, so the whole route is like decorated to look like, you know, like growing up. So this kid grows up like thinking he's poor as hell, you know. He's like,
man, I gotta watch this
it's one. So funny. And then obviously he finds out about the truth, and it's like, y'all robbed me of my whole life, you know. But the extent they go to cover up, you know, their billionaire status, to get to hopefully instill the same sort of discipline in the kid is hilarious.
Well, you gotta teach the hunger.
Yeah,
that's the thing.
Yeah,
that's the thing. It's hard to teach when somebody's always full.
Yeah, but I think the movie's like, what I took from it was that, you know, okay, you want the kids to have the same stuff, but what applied to you or what worked for you probably isn't gonna work for them, you know. Like,
yeah.
So, all right, Jeff. Well, thank you for your time, and honestly, I'm really, just like as a friend, I'm really glad that you could share everything you shared with me, and yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, if I find the capacity to do something like this in the future, just for like, you know, outside of this project, I would love to talk to you more, you know.
Thank you.
Yeah,
thank you. I really appreciate that.
My
I'm
man.
honored.
Hell yeah, bro. Me too.
And that song is an amazing song.
Thank you.
Congrats on the song.
Thank you. And for anybody that, you know, is in New York and y'all need some sound and light, and you know, beyond that, Canal Sound and Light, that's the spot. That's the IG. And look for Jeff. Thanks, y'all. Thank you, Rick.